Yeah.
All right. Good morning, everybody. We are live, and live stuff totally makes things kind of interesting because, as you can see, God has shed his light upon David Tall. You can see you took the light away, David. Bro, I think you're muted. Or are you muted or are you there?
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Okay.
I
So
am totally here.
we have so much to talk about. You've literally got bombings in Yemen. You've got explosions in Iran. You have Israel being attacked in Ben Gurion, of all places. You've got the security cabinet that has just met and has resolved that they are going to deal with Gaza once and for all. You've got Ronen Bar, who is the head, or the former head of the Shin Bet, now basically saying that he's moving on out. And I bet you the only reason why he's doing that is because he thinks the corrupt attorney general in Israel is going to somehow save his life, which we all know that's not going to happen. As a matter of fact, she has a life of her own that she needs to save. And then you've got lots and lots and lots and lots of growing anti-Semitism happening, especially amongst what we call the right-wing leadership. And I'm going to tell you it's disgusting. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Genesis 12 tells us we bless Israel, God blesses us. We curse Israel, God curses us. So before I let David run with it, because there's a lot for David to run with, and I'm telling you, folks, I mean, look, I have not seen anything like this in God knows how long. I mean, it has been so incredibly crazy. So incredibly crazy. So with that, let's just do this very quickly. I'm going to acknowledge some of the super chats and the super stickers, and I want to thank you guys that have done that. You are a tremendous blessing. I have not seen, he has. I think Brad has chimed in already. Brad, you are the first super chat as usual. You say, hey, bro, James, I'm trying not to get you in trouble today. Thank you. Thank you, Brad. I would appreciate it. Brad, one of the smartest guys around, by the way. Talk about U.S. attaining Greenland and Canada. Trump could offer Chris Christie, J.B. Bregster, and The View. It's almost an equal swoop around for pound. Oh, my goodness. You're telling me you're not trying to get me in trouble. You're going to get me in trouble, Brad. Okay. He says, oh, no, looks like I got you in trouble. I really don't mean to. Did you notice, Brad, how I sometimes don't read your lines accurately, that I pretend as though I don't really know how to read? Yeah, there's a reason for that, bro. Anyway, go ahead and make our day, and the rest of it is cut off. Thank you. You say, hi, Jim and Dave. It's been a long time since anybody's called me Jim. Thank you so much, Linda Snyder. Thank you for your report. Tweeter trash, breaking everything in Yemen. Yes, you're right. Mess around and find out. Boy, you ain't kidding. Mess around with God's people, and make no mistake, you about to find out. And they are definitely finding out.
Did you get the explanation how they were snucker punched?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think I have a very accurate picture on how that happened, but I would love for you to talk to people about this because the dynamic that happened is so consequential, especially when you understand how it actually commenced. And Iran is in trouble, by the way, because this has Iran written all over it, especially with the last missile launch that ended up landing in Ben Gurion. I'm shocked, by the way, at that. I'm going to have to ask you about that.
Do you want to start there?
Yeah, let's do that. And then Pookie, I know you left us a couple of super chats, and can I just read this really quickly? He says, good morning, James and David. Just watched the Balagan premiere regarding Gihon Springs. Okay, what you think of Operation Gideon's chariots?
Yep.
IDF and U.S. affiliates take over Gaza.
Oh,
so
wow.
that we're gonna have to talk about the IDF thing taking over Gaza. That's real. It's happening. It was decided in the security cabinet meeting. So that's a part of our conversation today. So he's also, Pookie's talking about some other things recently. Pookie, I'm going to do this, bro. With some of the things that you're bringing about, they're going to bring out long conversation. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold your comments till the end. David, do not let me forget reading Pookie's comments because those are things that are going to turn into they're going to turn into a big conversation.
Okay.
So
we do have some big conversations to go in today if we want to.
Yep. So we'll do it. And then one last thing, James, will you and Tommy finish the rapid fire 10 related on countdown to turn? You know what? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if we didn't finish it, but I'll have to look into that. I don't know, bro. Okay. And we'll get back to your other question about the red heifers and some of the other things because there's some interesting stuff there. So, and David probably could get better at answering the more modern day Hebrew question related to, and I'll talk about the biblical Hebrew picture, the ancient Hebrew picture when we're done with that. So, okay, David, where do you want to start, bro? Because we have a lot to talk about. We have the Israeli cabinet basically saying, we are going to take Gaza back. I mean, make no mistake. Gaza is, we're going in there. We're deploying. You have the Shabak now, who is apparently running a parallel government in that Bibi's doing something he probably should have done a long time ago, and he's appointed his own person that he's working with directly, and he's completely bypassing the infrastructure of your internal FBI. But there's other things happening that are even more consequential that we have to talk about, specifically Yemen, what's going on right now and how it's going to affect everything geopolitically with Russia, what we're dealing with in Syria. I am just mind-boggled with how much of these morons are giving Julani any kind of credit. They even call him by his new name, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And Turkey is at the head of it all, and I'm the most concerned with them. You've got the president or the prime minister of Israel intending to go to Azerbaijan, which was stopped by Turkey because of his restriction on flying over airspace. You have a deal that Israel is about to sign with Greece and Cyprus regarding a power line that's going to be run under the water, which is going to infringe upon maritime rights of Turkey or contended maritime rights of Turkey.
Not
contended.
of Turkey, of northern Cyprus. There's a difference.
No. The Northern Cyprus issue is a big issue, but they're not calling that on the carpet right now. They're calling on the carpet the agreement that they made between Libya and Turkey, and it's that beltway that goes from the northern border of Libya all the way into the southern border of Turkey that doesn't even touch Cyprus. This is the area that's around the edge of the island, and Turkey is going to threaten to make an issue of this if any type of power lines are set underwater. And that's going to create a big problem with NATO. So, the question that we have to ask is, are we going to watch a situation where the second largest military in NATO is going to seek to invoke some level of Article 5 in order to create a conglomerate of nations attacking Israel?
Okay, let me mix it up a little bit more.
There's a lot to say.
Are we on the Turkey arena?
We're in the Israel-Turkey last days arena. I mean, Turkey's a big part of all of this, so we might as well talk about that.
So yesterday, Israel sent, we think about between 10 and 20 aircraft over Damascus to take out Syrian forces who were attacking the Druze neighborhood in southern Damascus and into the southern Golan Heights to take out, again, the Sunni fighters who are laying siege to the Druze area in the southern part of the Golan Heights. Now,
and that's the April 30th attack, correct? And then 2 days later or 3 days later, we saw the May 2nd attack that actually attacked the area in Damascus outside the presidential palace, correct?
There you go. But here's the complexity is it. First of all, there's drones over Syria all the time, 24/7. Those drones, are put in place. Again, I'll go back to the politics because the Druze in Israel put pressure on Netanyahu to support the Druze in Syria. Okay, but here's the problem, the Israeli Air Force moved in over Damascus, and the Turkish Air Force actually threatened to head them off. Here's where it gets interesting. Putin sent Russian planes to block the Turkish planes from interacting with the Israeli planes over Syria. Let me say that again. Russia sent Russian planes to stop the Turkish planes from holding back the Israeli planes over Damascus. Yes, that is the game of chess that is being played right now.
I'm going to tell you this right now. I thought we would see something like this happening. I did not think it would happen this soon.
Again.
So you mean to tell me that Russia is denying any claim it has to sovereignty, in essence, over the Herman Syrian side of the Golan Heights, temporarily to help assert and build the authority of Israeli independence, so to speak, self-will, whatever you want to call it, in the region on behalf...
I'm going to say projection of power.
Well, just maybe projection of power. I would think that I think we're talking about the right to self-determination discussion more than a projection of power. I think certainly the Knesset's going to avoid using the term projection of power, because projection of power is a term that's more associated with the ridiculous colonialist mindset that all of these liars are continuing to say about Israel. I think it is the right to self-determination that Israel is continuing to pursue while they're seeking to destroy the woke mind virus that we've all been talking about. But what's interesting to me is that Russia has to be denying the claim that they've made in the past concerning having sovereignty on the eastern border of Israel, which would be the western border of Syria, specifically the area related to the Golan Heights and in Herman.
I don't think Russia's in the Golan Heights. I think there's something else going on.
No. They're not in the Golan Heights.
No,
they're not.
So let's see if I can paint a picture. Okay, Turkey is using Syria as a how do you say, the forward line of its proxy war with the Sunni world. Okay, and Russia doesn't want the Muslim Brotherhood, represented by Turkey, to make too many advances into Syria. The only thing holding back Turkey is Israel in Syria. And when there was maybe a confrontation between Turkey and Israel over the skies of Syria, Russia intervened and told Turkey back down.
Okay, so let me take this a step further.
Yeah,
and let's really
let me just add one more thing.
Okay.
Benjamin Netanyahu and Putin had a conversation a day ago.
Okay, so let me so let me take this a step further, because this is going to go back to the hawkish nature of Netanyahu.
Yeah.
And what we're actually watching right now, because what we suspect is true. This probably has a little bit of Ben Gvir written all over it as well, and I'll tell you why. Although this is interesting, I don't know if you noticed the vote that they had in the Knesset regarding, they said they're going to take back Gaza, but then there was another vote that talked about giving aid to some of the Palestinians that live in that area through a body, maybe not necessarily an NGO, but like a military body like the United States of America, who might be willing to do it. And Ben Gvir was the only...
Talking about a private company now.
A private company, and Ben Gvir was the only one to say no, which doesn't surprise me, by the way, that he would say no. But there is something that we have to process here. And I'm going to articulate this because this is mind-blowing. Okay? The path that we've been going on up until this point has been the goal to, I have to be careful how I say this, that there is a goal to create a mechanism of deconfliction in Syria between Turkey and Israel, and the idea that being accomplished would be through strong diplomatic efforts of the United States of America while on purpose ignoring Russia's voice in the region for a couple of reasons. Now, my statement about that is it's a terrible mistake. When the United States started pursuing that policy just a month ago, I said it was a terrible mistake because what they're not taking into account is Russia's presence in Libya, and they're about to win the Libyan civil war. But with that said, what Netanyahu just did was Netanyahu pretty much said, with all due respect, America, let me fly a different way. He goes and he has a talk with Putin. I wonder if that talk that he has with Putin, he functioned as a proxy of the interests of the United States in ending the war in Ukraine. Maybe on that auspice, having that conversation. And in doing so, him and Putin decide, we don't want Syria to be a source of deconfliction between us and Turkey, because if Turkey sets up military bases, which is what they're trying to do in Syria, it will work against your interests, Russia. It will work against my interest. In other words, you have an NS2 pipeline that you're trying to maintain and fix. You're trying to get energy over to Europe. I am too. If we work together on how we coordinate with that, it's going to require us getting rid of this deconfliction mechanism or this permanent DMZ that they're trying to make Syria. Let us do our job.
I'm going to add on.
Is that accurate? Is that probably what's happening?
No, that is totally accurate. I'm going to add on another element, and I think it was I don't remember who was it that says. Again, there's a triangular dynamic going on in the Middle East. Okay, Shiite, Iran, all the crazies on that side. Okay, Sunni moderates, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and in Jordan, and the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is raising its head. The leader of the Muslim Brotherhood,
Kuwait, the Islam. Yep.
The leader of the Muslim Brotherhood, by the way, Muslim Brotherhood has just now been outlawed again in Jordan because they tried to overthrow the Jordanian king again. The leader of the Muslim Brotherhood now.
Abdullah is mad, by the way.
Yeah.
Very mad.
By the way, he sent Abbas to Lebanon yesterday in order to convince the Palestinians to give up their arms in Lebanon. A whole different story. We can go down that road if you want. But here's the thing.
That's brilliant, by the way, if he's doing that. Because he's using Lebanon as a DMZ in essence. And he's betting on the fact that Hezbollah is going to have a voice in it, and he's going to let them all destroy each other.
Well, it looks like Lebanon is kind of settling down, but we'll get to that. Let me get back to where we're going. So the head of the Muslim Brotherhood right now is Tayyip Erdogan. And this is the issue that we're having. Now, I think that even Putin wants to make sure that the Muslim Brotherhood keeps its head down.
Yeah.
He doesn't want the Muslim Brotherhood to fill up the vacuum that's been left by the fall of Iran in Lebanon and in Iraq and in Syria. He doesn't want that. He needs that to be under control. And let's put it this way. Erdogan and Putin never really did get along. They've got joint interest, but they never got along. Remember, there was a Russian plane that was shot down by the Turks, and there was a whole balagan in the past. So there's a very complex dynamic, and I'm going to add one more thing. I talked to a Russian friend of mine, let's say, call him that, who says that we don't really get the whole idea. Putin and Trump are don't like each other, but are sitting down and playing cards. And every once in a while, they'll pull somebody in to be a third hand. As of now, it's Benjamin Netanyahu, who's playing cards with Putin and Trump. And they're deciding how all of these things are going to be played out. That's what's going on right now. And on the ground, we're seeing the results of this, but there's a lot of things going on underground that we don't really know. And add on what just now happened with Trump. I don't know if you heard what Trump said about the Houthi 2 hours ago. 2 hours ago,
I did not see the 2 hour ago post. What was the post?
2 hours ago, Trump came out with a statement that the Houthi have agreed to stop firing at ships, and the United States has agreed to stop firing at the Houthi. Wait a minute. What was not mentioned And Trump literally said, "We will respect them on this. If they don't fire at us, we won't fire at them." What was not mentioned, what is missing out of this dynamic right now, Israel.
Yeah. No, look, it's a what he just basically said when he made that statement is go do what you have to do quickly, Israel.
Okay, so do you know what Israel did 3 hours ago?
I have not heard as of 3 hours ago. I've
Okay,
been
so
so
closed off.
inundated in
So the Sana'a airport is now destroyed. The Houthis don't have an
no.
airport. And
No.
yes. And what Israel did, by the way, I don't know if you remember, they attacked the port at Hodeidah the day before yesterday.
Yeah, we know that. Yeah.
And they basically, it was a snucker punch. They left it. They let the Houthis think that that was what Israel was going to retaliate for, that rocket at Ben Gurion Airport, and then they went in. They sent a map over Yemeni public television with a designated area of the airport. They said, if you are in this area, you will die. They waited an hour and they destroyed the Sana'a airport in Sana'a.
Wow. Like that's
So that's the situation between Israel
was
and
was
maybe
that before or was that after they agreed to a nominal ceasefire with the president?
that was before. I think that was about 2 hours, 3 hours before. After that, we hear this, how do you say, press conference. I think President Trump had with somebody from Canada, where he said the Houthis have agreed to stop firing at shipping on the seas. He stressed the on the seas part. And based on that, we will not fire back at them. There's no agreement. It's not written. It's not everything. It's the word. We will we will honor their word and they will honor us. But nothing said about firing rockets at Israel. And can I make it personal, James?
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
rocket hit the Ben Gurion airport.
I know, David. I know. I
I'm
know.
going to be there in an hour. No, in 6 hours,
I know.
flying back.
Yeah. Your mother-in-law and I talked about it last night.
So anyway, so the situation is very volatile, but there's one thing, and here's what I want. By the way, I owe an explanation to everybody here about how I think that rocket got through. So tell me when you want to do that.
It was one of the big questions that I wanted to talk about because I knew you would be the one to have this conversation.
I haven't seen the official reports yet, but I'm gonna tell you what I think was happening, what we felt was on the works, and everybody was worried about this was going to be happening. There, in warfare, not even modern warfare. In warfare, there's always a tit for tat between offensive systems and defensive systems,
Yep.
between archers and shields, between armor and swords, between cannons and castles. I mean, at some point, you have a defensive system that holds back all of this, then the offensive system, and there's always going to be that. The offensive defensives that we're talking about today is with the invent of missiles, both short range missiles against tanks, and we can talk about that if you want to, or the long range ballistic missiles, are the missile interceptor systems.
Yeah.
So these get better. Iron Dome comes out and is able to intercept. Then something changes. A ballistic missile, as we know, uh, goes far enough up into the sky in order to be outside of the atmosphere.
Yeah.
The booster separates, and what comes back down is more or less a smaller, sometimes multi-warhead inserter, or the warhead. It comes down very fast. When I mean very fast, we're talking about between Mach 6 and Mach 12 or Mach 16. We're talking about that. The speed is very fast, but so if you want to intercept it, you need a very, very fast missile to intercept it as high as possible. What they have done is they've added maneuverability to the warhead.
Yeah.
meaning now it can swerve, it can change. So if you triangulate the intercept point based on trajectory and speed, then if the target changes, swerves the trajectory, your intercept point changes. And that's why both the Arrow 3, that's Israel's system,
Yes.
and the THAAD both fired interceptors for this one, and both of them missed or didn't intercept. We don't know that. Now, that is much more worrisome than we think it is, because if they have the ability to overcome the interceptor, the guy with the cannon can now blow down the walls of the castle, for lack of a better word.
And my guess was that, based on your statement, which is factual, this was a dry run. Is that what we're talking about?
Well, here's the thing: if the Houthi, where do the Houthi get their rockets from? They get them from Iran. Okay, yes,
Right.
and as much as anything, it's a test bed. So Iran now knows that this kind of rocket can get through. Now, I'm going to say this: it's not over yet. Okay,
No, not even
um,
close.
no, not even close. And I know that there are people that are working on how to deal with this. And don't forget, there's the Iron Beam that should be up probably something in the next year. Everybody's talking about that, and that's a completely different system because the Iron Beam is instantaneous. The
And the
Iron
iron
Beam
beam is
is
supposed to be laser based.
laser. Exactly.
Yeah.
So with a
Yeah.
laser base, you don't have to select interception point. The speed of light means if you can track it, then it doesn't matter what the speed or the place that it is. I mean, a laser will be able to hit a target no matter what. And the idea is to put the iron beam on aircraft in the upper atmosphere, and
Yeah,
that's
and for
going to be
those
the
of you
next defensive system.
and for those of you guys that don't know, Israel's Iron Dome is probably the only one of its kind that utilizes very specific mechanisms of AI to make very complicated mathematical calculations to determine areas of triangulation. So what it does, in essence, is it knows that a missile is coming from this place. It sees and recognizes the size of the missile, and based on the size, it calculates how fast it can drop out of the sky. Based on its forward trajectory, it calculates speed, and it says, with the direction that this missile is going, we know for a fact that it must pass through this airspace over here. So we are going to fire a missile that will explode at this point in this interception area, and the explosion will, in essence, cause these other missiles to completely fall apart. It works out very, very well. It's perhaps one of the most powerful and consequential systems ever made in the world. The problem is if the missile that's being shot knows that it can change course quickly, then it's past the capacity of the Iron Dome to be able to see it. Now, the way that the people who have developed the Iron Dome have gotten away from it or gotten around it is, they basically say that there's only a few ways or a few directions this missile can go when it changes direction, based on what works for the forward trajectory, and then it has that calculated. So that's why you'll see one missile go and it doesn't do anything the next, and then the next, and then finally it intercepts it. And the reason why you have misses with the Iron Dome is because maybe it missed the third or the fourth attempt at that area because the timing kind of slowed down, but they've gotten really good at perfecting that. So what David is saying now is that this doesn't take just one angle change for corrective purposes. These things change angles all the time because it's correcting a trajectory. So if it goes off by a certain degrees, it knows how to adjust itself. And the Iron Dome says there is a possibility that this is going in this direction only because the initial launch took it in the wrong direction, and the guidance system on this missile will change it slightly, so we're going to assume it could be here or here. Well, now we're talking about something that just takes an outright right turn. And Israel has no way of being able to calculate that trajectory unless they just blanket the whole sky. Correct?
Yes, but
Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah, you're understanding. But again, there's three levels to the whole thing. The Iron Dome is on a lower level. We're talking about 2 or 3 miles as in range. With the Arrow 3, or with this ballistic missile that came through, we are talking about 2,000 kilometers. I'd say about 150, 130 miles, 1,300 miles. And we're talking about altitudes much, much higher. So the same concept is the same, but this is all playing out actually outside the atmosphere, very close to outside the atmosphere. Now, here's the problem with that. Okay. If you want to be able to trace something that is in very low atmosphere, you cannot use fins to
Yeah, good
direct
luck.
it.
Yeah.
You have to use gas jets.
Yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah.
think we've hit the science fiction button. I want to step up from this. I want to step up from this on the level of anti-tank missiles and the trophy system that takes out anti-tank missiles, to short-range missiles and the Iron Dome, or long-range missiles and the Arrow and the THAAD. And I'm going to say this. I don't know if Gadi kind of mentioned this. We are at a point right now where non-sophisticated players can play on the board with major military powers and hold their own. What happened with the Houthi is very indicative of the fact that if you have missile technology on that level, you don't have to be a military superpower in order to change something. The Israeli airport was closed down for probably about 15 minutes, which is not serious. But all of the airlines, except for El Al, quit flying to Israel. And the Houthi did that from 2,000 kilometers away with a system that is nothing. They're a nothing country. They're nothingness. And they
Yeah.
actually have pinpricked Israel. Now, think
Yep.
about this. If that's the situation, think what the Chinese can do with that kind of technology on one hand, or
Oh, yeah.
think what, and here's another issue, what Taiwan can do to China in the case of an attack. And I was looking at the map the other day between Taiwan and China. And if the Houthi can do this to Israel, Taiwan can do this to the Three Gorges Dam that actually sits on the Yellow River in China.
Oh, yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is this kind of missile technology is changing. It's changing the political situation, and this is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Well, we talked about this years and years ago, David, and this is
Yes, we
something that is worthwhile talking about. I remember. I mean, the conversation that we had was so consequential in my mind that I remembered where we were sitting and what we were eating. Like literally, we were eating an Israeli version of a McDonald's hamburger, which was lousy because it was kosher, and so you couldn't have the meat with the cheese, or the cheese with the meat. But
Well,
I
we found an unkosher McDonald's for Christy while she was here.
we did. Oh, did you really?
Yep.
Yeah, because we also found one near the airport too, but it still wasn't good. Hold on, I'm gonna blow my nose here 1 second.
By
Live.
the
That's what
way,
happens when you're live.
I
Um,
I
I
found out
the,
the other week that there's non-dairy cheese that people put on hot and hamburgers lately.
ew, nasty. That's so un-American. It's not even Israeli. Come on. Come on. It's a okay, but I'm getting distracted thinking about McDonald's in Israel. But you remember that steakhouse that we went to in Ben Yehuda? I don't know if you remember that place. That place, man, the hummus was so good. The steak was like the best I've probably ever had in Israel.
Well, I miss Little Tiberias. That's what I
I
miss.
know. Oh yeah. Well, come on, little type. Listen, if you if you want good food from the homeland, there's where you go. Yep, that's for sure. Uh, okay. We sat in this McDonald's where there's like this little mini mall in the Dead Sea, near the Dead Sea,
Mhm.
and you looked at me with fear in your face. You were very disturbed. You weren't even walking with the Lord at the time, but you said, "Me and my people are in trouble, James." And unfortunately, I did not have a blank stare on my face. I knew exactly what you were talking about. And then you said something to me that was really scary, because this was something that I didn't realize until I really started thinking about it and looking at it. You said that the Arabs are getting very, very good at propagandizing the evil that they're doing to make the Israelis look like the ones guilty. And you said that your fear was that they are beginning to get a hold on media like nobody else, and they are going to end up becoming the masters of it at some point. And at first, what went through the back of my head is, how in the world are they going to become masters of it when all they're doing right now is using the web to train their operatives on how to do evil things? They're publishing their handbooks there. They're doing all of that. But the one thing that I didn't think about, the one thing that I just lost the ability to be able to see, is that it might be the case that young, impressionable kids might look at that with admiration and with some romanticizing, and those young kids 10 years later will become the news reporters of tomorrow. I underestimated that, David. I did not think about it the way you thought about it. Now, don't get me wrong. When we had the conversation, I knew it was going to be a problem. And I told you, the Lord told me, and I told you that I felt like me and you would one day like get in the midst of this and fight in this arena. And look at where we're doing. I never thought it would be like this. Never had any idea that God would do it at the level that he's doing it right now. But with all that said, Sinwar from the depths of hell right now is still controlling the media narrative.
Yep.
And the Israelis are still terrible at fighting back in that respect.
You can't. Okay. Here's the problem. And again, I'm going to make a correlation between this. I'm off the technology of the military technology, because, by the way, that's going to become a greater problem. Military technology is going to change the way these wars are being fought, and is going to give them a power that is above and beyond their ways. And together with the media, look what's happening with the Houthi. Every Muslim in the world right now is buying action dolls of Yemenite Houthi, because the only ones that are standing up to Israel in the West right now are the Houthi rebels from Yemen. And if you're a young Muslim anywhere in the Muslim world, or even if you're a young Muslim even in the United States, in Dearborn or in London, you see the Houthi as the great hero.
Yeah.
And this is no different from turning Che Guevara into a great hero, by the way. This is the same thing. This is the mindset that we are dealing with. I mean, anybody who knows anything about Che Guevara and the Castro team in Cuba knows that they were awful, horrific, terrible. Che Guevara would mutilate gays, and now he's become the great hero of the gays. The Houthi and the Arabs and the Muslims are going down that same route.
100%.
And this is going to be a serious problem.
Well, I'm going to do this because I think it's definitely worthwhile. I'm going to play a portion of what Gadi Taub said while he was at the JNS summit. He spoke at JNS's summit, and what he says here is profound. What he says here should ring the bell of every single person that hears it. It should literally bother everybody that hears it, because it should show almost immediately how serious of a situation we're actually in. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to play this because I think that it's worthwhile for you to listen to what he says, everybody, okay? And by the way, just so that you know, David has been talking about this for a long time. We've been talking about this since we started doing the show together and even before. So we're talking about years now. But listen to how Gadi frames this. It's smart. It's very, very smart.
No, he's one of the best.
Oh, just listen to this.
name of gender affirmation. It has also led the International Court
I'm going to rewind this. Just hold on one second.
Argue that
hold on one second.
in the name of anti-racism, it is what led British authorities to legitimize grooming gangs in the name of community relations. It is what led students to support the genocide of Jews in the name of anti-racism. It is what led courts to send rapists into women's jails, and what authorized the sterilization of children in the name of gender affirmation. It has also led the International Court in The Hague to argue that Israel, not Hamas, should be tried for genocide. It reached the height of absurdity with Judith Butler, a feminist oracle, defending the sadistic, barbarian rape and mutilation of Jewish women as armed resistance. Yeah. Netanyahu's mission was, of course, not to argue the fine points of queer theory with Judith Butler or to point out the contradictions in Edward Said, but his instinct for calling out relativism went right to the heart of a global problem. This is not a clash of civilizations, he told Congress, referring to the famous book. It is a clash of barbarism with civilization. It is a clash between those who glorify death and those who sanctify life. Final word. Not all values are created equal. We will not be able to defend ours if we continue to assume Obama-era sanitized language and talk about radical extremism instead of calling jihadi terrorists like Hamas and grooming gangs in Britain the murderers at the Charlie Hebdo journal in France, or the assassins of gay director Theo van Gogh in Holland, by the name that describes them as what they really are: barbarian jihadists, enemies of civilization. Israel.
I'm doing a video, by the way, where I'm going to review this whole thing. I'm releasing that video on, I believe, Monday. What's powerful about what he's saying is the only way that you can defeat them in the media for, in essence, who they are is by calling them out the way that they deserve to be called out.
Okay, and just James, we are Christians. We are Bible-reading, God-fearing people.
Amen.
We know there is such a thing as good and evil.
Yes.
But we live in a world where that distinction has been muddied up as much as possible.
Yeah, the lines have been blurred. Yep.
So what he is saying is this. He says this relativism, Obama's relativism, it's not that you're bad, you just don't understand it. I mean, everywhere that we turn, we see that evil has been allowed to raise its head and become normative. Okay, you're not a pedophile. You are a minor attracted human being. I mean, again, we know that, again, and if you can do that, you can turn the Hamas into a different, it's all relative, but it's not. It's not relative. And it's, and again, the vast majority knows that it's not relative. That's why President Trump is the president today. But the loud minority is trying to push the relativism, which is why they're trying to push gay rights whenever they can. By the way, the gay rights are even upset now because they're saying that the trans people have hijacked what they believe was a civic movement and turned it into a queer dynamic that doesn't even have anything to do with gays. Everything is accepted. Everything is okay. Everything is this. By the way, Douglas Murray is kind of pushing the same thing that we're talking about right here. And there are other, Einat Wilf is pushing the same thing. We need to stand up and say evil is evil. And right now, the representatives of evil in the world are the Muslims. I'm sorry to say it.
Yeah. Look, this is such an incredibly difficult picture to be able to get people to understand, because when you look at Islam is right now the pipeline for the evil that's being communicated and promulgated and propagated, for that matter, upon God's ancestrally chosen people. And the moment we begin to see that and recognize it for what it is, becomes the moment that you begin to see the light of day in whoever acknowledges it. You know, look, we talked about this. You had a meeting with a Calvary Chapel pastor, right?
Yeah.
It's the church is dying now, but it was the biggest Calvary Chapel, who basically he's anti-Semitic. He's literally anti-Jew. So he bought the lie, hook, line, and sinker. And there's a lot of people in the church today that are buying the lie, hook, line, and sinker. And they're basically saying that we are replacing Israel, which nothing could be more demonic. It's like the branch telling the tree you hate the tree.
Okay, so let's go a stage further, and I think you talked about this with Gaddy, if I remember, and I want the people to kind of connect to this. Okay, so we understand woke, progressive, left, wacko, and we understand how to deal with that. Okay, and we understand that they are anti-Israel, anti-Semitic, anti-Zionism. Everything is mixed in together. Okay, and at this point, the enemy realizes again there is a shift. There's a change in most of the Western world, realizes that the battle is shifting in a different direction. And now the anti-Semitism, now the anti-Israelism, now the anti-Zionism is coming from the right and from the progressive,
especially from the right.
Exactly.
It's crazy. It's substantially from the right. You're looking at clowns acting up and saying things that are deeply, deeply demonic. I mean, look at what Tucker Carlson has been doing as of late. Candace Owens, many of these comedians that are now beginning to associate themselves with what they call the right. You have people in Congress that are voting against bills on the extreme right, that are voting against bills that would be helpful to Israel.
And here's what I find, I don't know if fascinating is a good way to say it. I found it really, really worrisome, is the fact that these people received their platforms, grew up and became prominent. These people had enough of a voice because of their fight against the left.
Right. They capitalized on the moment. That's right.
And then they used this tool, they used this resource that they've been giving again to swerve around. And I think it's fascinating to say, wait a minute, we're Jewish, we're not surprised. When the left comes against us, we're not surprised. But then all of a sudden the right turns against us. Well, wait a minute, these are different. Let's put it this way: we have right-wing holidays and we have left-wing holidays, and maybe this is a good way to connect to what we talked about today before, because I was talking to Christy about this. Okay, they did fire a rocket from Yemen. The rocket made it through the defensive system. It blew up not far from the terminal in the airport, but that is not going to kill us, and that is not going to take us down. And what happened is they managed to drop one rocket inside the, how do you say, I don't know if you've ever been to if you remember the airport, when you drive up to the airport, there's these orange trees. There's these citrus groves. That's where the rocket hit. Okay. In the citrus grove.
But that's close, bro. That's not,
that's
very close.
I'm saying it was 300 yards from the terminal. It was 300 yards from the terminal. I'm going to say it very clear. Let's make this clear. They managed to get it through. But I'm going to say this: the airport in Yemen does not exist anymore.
Yeah. I shouldn't be laughing at that, but especially the way you framed it.
But here's something else. And I'm proud to be an Israeli. I saw the press release of the Arab spokesperson of the IDF speaking in Arabic, and he put up a map and he said, here is the Sana'a airport from here to here to here to here. If you are within this area, leave. If you don't leave, your life is in danger.
Yeah.
And they left. Only 3 people were killed.
Yep.
What does that tell you?
I mean, it tells me what I already know. You know, I can quote John Spencer, who says Israel has the reputation of being the most casualty-sensitive country that's ever existed on the planet. I mean, that's you blow the ratios out of the water with normal war. That's just the reality of it.
Okay,
No
so
one drops leaflets in a country before they blow it up.
I want to share something, though, that I think maybe I have a unique position to tell you, because one of the things, and James, you can probably, we've all been in places where we appreciate, where we have been hurt, abused, and attacked by others, by enemies, and you have to reply, retaliate, and interact
Yeah.
without crossing the lines that you hold yourself to. Meaning,
that's right.
the fact that the enemy, and here this connects to what Gadi Taub is saying. And by the way, this is a greater problem. Gadi Taub and others are saying, wait a minute, this is barbaric. They are barbaric. This is not you having a fight with another civilized army where you can kind of argue the how do you say, the rules of conduct, and you can argue about war. They are doing things by definition that are barbaric. Do you need to be barbaric in order to defend yourself from this? How far do you need to go down? And again, where all the westerns and all the action movies is, how does the hero keep himself from becoming the barbarian that he is actually defending against?
Yeah, and I forgot exactly how he said it in Hebrew, but the way I understood it, it was powerful when he said it to me. He basically said, he quoted, I believe it was Isaiah. He said, we love the passage that says that one day the wolf will lay with the lamb, but we want to be the wolves. It's just so to answer the imposition of your question, the idea here is that we need to be the people that are stronger and more capable of destroying our enemies immediately, but we are willing to lay with them so long as they remain the lambs. That's a very, this goes back to Mayor. She said the same thing. We put our guns down, we die. They put their guns down, we have peace.
By the way, somebody said that very, very articulately on Joe Rogan's show the other day.
Oh, no
Because
kidding.
Joe Rogan has been kind of wiggly waggling about, which side of this debate he is on. And I don't remember if you heard about the debate that went viral between, I think it was Dave Smith and Douglas Murray.
Yeah, can I tell you something about the Douglas Murray, Dave Smith? I watched the whole thing.
I watched 2.5 hours?
I watched it all. I watched the whole thing. Douglas Murray, in my opinion, is a brilliant man who can argue with the best of them. He is very, very good at articulating his position. I think he embarrassed himself on Joe Rogan.
I think he did.
And I'll tell you why I think he embarrassed himself. Because he spent most of his time explaining to people that if you're not qualified to talk about these things and you're not in my position where I understand these things, then don't talk, because you don't really know what you're doing.
He made it an
He was so full of David, I truly wished at that moment that me and you were sitting at that table, because so much of what Dave Smith was saying was 100% accurate, but he didn't know how to process it. He didn't know how to nuance it. What I would have told Dave Smith if I was in the Douglas Murray position is I would have said, your observations are accurate. The part of the observation that you don't understand comes from the fact that you don't know our people, you don't know our culture, and this is not an argument that says you have to know our people and you have to know our culture to understand this. But I just want you to know the facts, that it is from the pit of hell. It's demonic. It's satanic that children die. It's ridiculous. What in the world people in the right mind would love to kill children? The problem is the one doing the children killing is not Israel. The one doing the children killing is Hamas. And this is the problem because, look, Yahya Sinwar wanted people to frame it this way. Yahya Sinwar wanted the West to frame what he's doing is using children as body shields. Because if you can frame it as using children as body shields, then most of the Western woke world will say they got so desperate that they're doing anything they can to save lives. But what Yahya Sinwar is actually doing, and what we have to say clearly they were doing, is they were specifically taking pleasure in the willful, the calculated, the nefarious infliction of death to their children and women so that the media will use that to blame Israel. Israel to this day doesn't know how to deal with that.
No, by the way,
I think they're beginning to get the. Well, nobody does. You're right, but I'm telling you, there's one way to deal with it. Let me tell you how you deal with it. The way that you deal with it is you tell the truth again and 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 again, and eventually the people. Oh, go ahead.
I'm no, sorry to cut you off, but we're seeing this on the left side. Okay, people steal because they don't have food. People do lie because they have no choice. We justify evil. We justify sin, okay, by victimizing the people who perpetrate the evil. That is one of the classic tactics of Satan since the Garden of Eden.
Amen.
What does he do? What does
how
he
you
do?
do it?
The snake comes and he has her to justify it because he victimizes Eve. He says, you're the victim here.
Yep. And the tactic that Satan pursued in deceiving Eve is that he got Eve to focus on what she didn't have instead of acknowledging what she did have. Eve had the whole world. Okay? Adam was told by the Lord, of every tree you may freely eat.
Everything.
When Satan questioned Eve said basically the opposite. The devil questioned Eve with the opposite. So Eve, because she engaged with the devil, started focusing on what she didn't have, and her focus on what she didn't have is what completely destroyed her. And that is exactly the tactic that's being utilized right now in Gaza and in other places. The left is being distracted because they are focusing on what does not exist.
Exactly.
Instead of understanding what truly does exist and dealing with what's in their hand. Now,
it's only can I tell you? Yeah.
But can I tell you how you deal with this? Let me tell you how you deal with this, David. This is the way to deal with it. And most people would never listen. But you know what I would do? I would say this. I would say, okay, queers for Palestine, gays for Palestine. Okay, we are going to send you as an envoy. I'm not joking. David, I'm not joking. I'm not saying this to be funny. Go to Gaza in your drag. Go to Gaza as a man who looks like a woman. March through the streets with your privates showing. Start talking about you're proud and that you stand in the struggle with them all. But make sure you have cameras that videotape everything that happens from beginning to end so that we have the footage to show the rest of the world. And the next time somebody else wants to say, let's stand, let's whatever for Palestine, send them there as the next envoy. You do that enough, and you'll realize very, very quickly how long you'll last.
But they don't want to go. But I want to add another layer to this. What happens here, and again, I was watching some of these videos. Charlie Kirk, by the way, doing an amazing job.
I'm very proud of Charlie. I was on the campus. I was on the campus of Cal State Long Beach with him yesterday. I was sitting there watching him I'm very proud of Charlie. Charlie is very dear to me. We're close. and we talk all the time. And I watched him. I watched Charlie being filled with the Spirit of God, literally just swinging the sword, winning kids over.
But here's my
He
other
was
side.
winning them over, David.
Yeah.
Winning them over.
But what I'm trying to say is these entitled teenagers or Gen Zers, whatever you want to call them, or even everybody on the left who lives in the most amazing country in the world, who has everything that they can dream of. The rest of the world wants to come to this garden in order to eat of all the trees. And again, what we said, zero in on the things that they think they don't have.
Yep.
And that is, again, okay, look at the Palestinians. They could have had a state. They could have had a country. They could have had billions of dollars poured in. What did they zero into? The only tree that they were not allowed to eat that from, and that is the children of Israel. That is the God's thing. They could have had a country 15 times, but they zoned into what they didn't have and not into all of the amazing things that they could have had.
That's right.
Again,
That's right.
this is Satan's tactic, and we're seeing it on a global scale again and again. Sometimes we get people to kind of be able to overcome it.
Yep. I I could not agree with you more. And that's the fundamental problem that we're having. And now I want everybody to brace themselves. And I'm going to put it on the record. I'm putting myself out there. I'm putting it on the record. As Israel prepares to go into Gaza, we're going to see this at a completely different level.
Yeah.
We are going to see the world turn against Israel in ways we've probably never seen it happen before.
Okay, so do we want to talk about what's going to happen?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's spend some time talking about it. Yes, talk to us.
Israel sent out, or I know that Israel sent out something like 40,000 call-up notices for reservists.
Yeah. I heard the number was close to 120,000.
Well, okay, but
is that an exaggeration?
It might have been first 40 and then later. I mean, it's going in. But Israel is about to go in full-fledged to Gaza, and I think we've decided that we have no choice, and we are going to conquer Gaza from side to side, from top to bottom, and actually go through Gaza with a fine comb in order to make sure. And again, we're not doing this because we want Gaza. We're not doing this because we want anything, but we have to finish off this issue. By the way, we have dissidents inside our own population, including soldiers who are complaining that they're working too hard. Now, don't get me wrong. I've been a soldier most of my life. Soldiers always complain. But here's the thing. The media is going to take them and put them on front stage because that's what the media is trying to convey. But
Probably
anyway,
already doing it.
Yeah, but I can't watch the Israeli news. I can't watch Channel 12 anymore. I can't watch Channel 11. It's turning my stomach. By the way, quick advice: I-24 News is doing a pretty good job lately.
Yeah, they are. Yep.
I-24 News has an English version, I think. It's doing a pretty good job.
I've been watching
But
I-24
let me finish this dynamic.
Yep.
We're going to conquer Gaza from top to bottom. We're going to do what it needs to do, and it's going to cost us dearly in soldiers because they're waiting for us to come in. Yep. This is the most hostile environment that any modern army has ever fought in. But we will do that. And because there's no one to put back in place after we're done, it looks like Israel will probably even stay in Gaza for the foreseeable future. Now, I know that Smotrich and the rest of the very animatic right wing is saying okay, and I saw on TV today that people are trying to prepare themselves to go back and live in Gaza. I doubt if the Israeli government is going to allow that to happen. Okay, but Smotrich and Ben-Gvir are making a lot of noise about this. And I think Bibi has to allow them to make noise because otherwise his government's going to fall apart. This is why he's paying, by the way, his dues to the Orthodox, which is becoming a more complex problem because the secular tax-paying Israelis that are fighting this war and are actually been in 300 days, 400 days in the last 100 year and a half, are saying to the Orthodox, you should be getting in under the structure here. You should
Yep.
be taking part in this. You should be a part of this war effort. And the religious are not willing to do this. And
Yep.
that is part of the political situation that we're in right now.
Yeah. And by the way, that situation is becoming more consequential by the moment, and it's one that has to be really it has to be really considered. By the way, can I just say this real quick? I think Bibi's going to use this as to his advantage. If Bibi plays his cards right, I don't think, because he loves his country, I don't think he would do it now. But if you really wanted to be brutal politically, he would basically break up his own coalition. He would force a re-election. He would create a new coalition that, in essence, pushes out the extreme right, which he could do. 6 seats isn't really much if you think about it, based on what Ben Gavir's been doing. And he could build a coalition that's stronger and bigger than the one that he had, based on the sympathy that he has now on his side, and make a play to, in essence, destroy what continues to fuel the hard right. It's a very possible way he could do it. The pathway
but
could
he
be
will
easy, but he would do it at the expense of the war footing.
Yeah, but he would have to make concessions instead of to the far right or to the religious, with a center left kind of coalition, which would mean either Lieberman or, God forbid, something Bennett style, something
He would
like
never
that.
do Bennett. He's
that
too
he would
smart.
have to
He's too
allow
smart.
into it.
Too smart to use Bennett
Okay,
or
so
Lieberman.
here's the
anyone.
reason. He would rather have the religious than Bennett.
That's probably an accurate statement. Maybe
Yeah,
that's something I didn't think through. I think that's an accurate statement. I would agree with that. I don't think that's wrong.
James, you're going to have to let me go because I got to get on a plane in a little while.
Okay, I'm going to give you the final word. Really quickly, what do you think is going to... Oh, you know what? Let me do this. I'm going to let you comment on this because Pookie,
Yeah,
I
Pookie.
promised him I would do this, and then we'll go. Okay, so he says, let me get this here. Let me get to this. He says, James and David, have you seen very recent 5 red heifers, which 3 seemed to be more kosher, and the one more interesting is named, oh, no kidding, Bulah, meaning married and bride in Hebrew. Robert Breaker filmed, let me see what he says. Oh, it's broken. What word is he trying to say? That's not a word that I know.
Molach? Melech? Malach? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Ask him what. But here's what I need, okay? There were 5 heifers that fit the criteria. As of, I'd say about 4 months ago, I heard that at least 2 of them have not been kosherized. But I am going to say the logic behind the red heifers, I think, is stronger than the actual what's going on. What I'm saying
Yeah,
is
I would
this.
agree.
If there were 5 kosher red heifers, you can refrigerate the ashes. I know that sounds weird to say it,
You
but
can.
theoretically, one red heifer makes enough of what you need for a lot of the actual liquid that is used, which means if they had them, they would have done it a long time ago. And there's jars of that stuff stationed somewhere. It doesn't have to be a red heifer anymore. So I think the red heifers themselves are I don't know, decoy or pulling in the attention.
Probably. That's funny, man. Me and you, I don't know if you got that from Christy, but me and you are definitely on the same page on that one. I think it's very possible that one has already been burned ceremonially and they're not telling anybody. I would be willing to guess.
I don't know anything, but if I was a red heifer guy, that's what I would do.
Yeah. And they would have made it a very sacred, quiet ceremony, guaranteed. And Leviticus does not place a time constraint from the time that the heifer is turned into ashes to the time that it's utilized for the dedication of the temple. As long as you have them.
By the way, before I forget, I put a clip up. I was on the Mount of Olives yesterday. Amazing view. Completely empty. No tourists. Okay.
Man.
But we did talk about the Houthi and the rockets and everything. So hit the Balagan connection. And we are on our way back, James. Oof.
Yeah, I cannot wait to see you guys back. I can't wait for you to be in the studio with me live.
Yeah.
That's gonna be nice.
I'm tired of this backdrop here.
Hey, I don't blame you, but it's nice, you know. It's good to give you some crackers and cheese and all of that.
So I'm putting together a studio in the house right now, so we'll talk about that when we get back.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. So Pookie also says this. He says, James, there's someone who works here that was escorted by HR to a room. I'm on break, and I hear prayers to Allah over and over. I recorded for a bit. What can I do, if any? Man, that's a good question. Pookie, email Dale, Pastor Dale, give him more of the info on this. Okay, that's kind of important. And let us know what's going on. I'd love to hear the recording.
What time is it?
It's probably happening. Yeah, it's afternoon prayers.
Yeah.
It's afternoon prayers. At the time that he sent it, I can't tell, but that's exactly what that is. I'd really be curious to know. Now because they're doing this all over now. They're letting people go aside in a room and start praying to Allah. Well,
in England, I saw that they're giving people information how to become Muslim. England is lost. I think.
England is listen. They're gone. The UK's done. France is done. Europe is gone. It's hopeless. It's become an ugly petri dish of hell. Very, very ugly. Very ugly.
James, I still got to go pack.
Okay, let's do it. Let me pray for you. Father in heaven, we just thank you so much, Lord, for this time that we could get together. All these things that we've discussed, Lord, we give to you. I thank you, Lord, for David. I pray, God, that you would just keep him and Christy safe. Watch over them, protect them, be with them, Lord. Strengthen them, have your hand upon them. We love you, God. We give it to you. We thank you, and we ask these things in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amigo.
Okay, we love you guys. Listen, continue, please. Yes, and pray for David and Christy's safe trip. Okay? We love you guys.
Balagan connection, and remind them about Gijón Springs, because we're getting things going.
Gijón Springs is an amazing ministry. If you want to back up Israel, all of it goes to that. It goes to Jews and Israel, and it's a way for God to just bless you. So definitely would encourage you to get behind that ministry. It's a great ministry, and God is using it, okay? Love you guys. God bless you. Keep fighting the good fight, and make sure, listen to me when I tell you guys this, make sure every day you're praying for Israel and pray for Jews around the world, okay? Love you guys. God bless you.